Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ribu Vora, and I love talking trash. So that's what I'm going to do with you today. I'm going to talk to you a bit about Garbology 101, which is an educational toolkit about waste, aimed to teach kids more about the products we use every day and throw away. So what is waste? A brilliant, beautiful, and talented 13-year-old said it's the stuff we've lost interest in. And that's quite interesting because, take this phone for example, if I lose interest in it, it becomes waste to me. Someone else says it's a result of convenience and cost. Now I've dropped my beautiful phone recently and cracked the screen. If it's difficult to repair, inconvenient, I'll probably throw it away. If it's too costly, if, for example, it costs a third the value of a new phone, I'll throw it away. Now Oxford Concise says it's unwanted or unusable materials or substances, but they also say byproducts. Now it's pretty interesting because when you throw something away, you're just thinking of the phone you're throwing away, not what went into this phone. So the waste we throw away varies from country to country. Now America is leading globally with about 2.08 kilos per person per day, followed by Canada at around 800 grams per person per day. Then there's India, 420 grams per person per day. Now that's the average individual. I was showing this presentation to college students in a small village, and someone stood up and said, "America's the problem." And it's true, they do waste more, they consume more resources. But I tried to explain to them that we have a lot more people in India, and we simply don't have the infrastructure that America has to deal with its waste. On top of that, a lot of industrial products, a lot of manufacturing happens here in India. So the waste we throw away in our bins every day, the municipal solid waste, in terms of total waste produced in the world every day, is just 2.5%. It's the tip of the iceberg. So that's the phone I'm throwing away. 3.5% is construction and demolition waste. Now that's the factory where this phone was made in China, shipping it, roads, ports, to the shop I bought it in. 18% is special waste. Now that's the energy and metals, the rare earth elements from Tibet, the oil from Iran somewhere. That's the materials that go into this phone. And 76% of all waste is converting these natural resources into a telephone. So imagine that. India and China are producing most of our goods, and that's where most of the waste is. And we're worried about this 2.5%. So there's a waste hierarchy. This is a guideline for managing waste. Remember I discussed the difference between how much waste Canada produces and America? Now this is largely because Canada has adopted a waste management strategy based on this waste hierarchy, which rates most favored options to least favored options. Now the most favored option environmentally is avoiding, don't buy a phone. Now, not many of us want to do that, so it's reducing it, perhaps buying a better phone or repairing it when it's broken. Then there's reuse, recycling. It's pretty interesting. I wish recycling it has such an appeal. I wish that avoidance and reduction had the same appeal as recycling. Then there's energy recovery. Our politicians think there's lots of waste. It's overflowing out of landfills everywhere. It's on our streets. Let's burn it and create green energy. I don't think it's green energy because you're not taking into account all the processes that happen before you get this telephone or this plastic bag. And finally, it's landfilling. It's India's most favorite waste disposal method. So India produces about 5 lakh tons of waste every day. That's 500 million kilos of waste every day, and of which 94% of it goes straight to a dump. Now 5% is composted, while in actuality, about 50% of that waste is compostable. Now these valuable nutrients are locked in a landfill, becoming a pollutant, instead of going to our farmers, simply because we don't segregate our waste. We don't separate organic from inorganic. Now, according to municipalities, just about 1% is recycled, but municipalities are not taking into account our huge informal sector, which I would say recycles about 15% of our waste. So it's clear that we need to change behavior. We need to start segregating waste, and take the talented Feroz Gujral, the beautiful curator of this event. So she loves to eat prawn curry, and she goes out, buys her prawns, vegetables, goes home, cooks it, and then dumps all her kitchen waste into one bin. She's unconscious about doing something wrong, right? She's unconscious of the fact that that waste will end up polluting a landfill. So then along come my colleagues, Mari and Chandra from WasteLess, and they talk to Feroz and they explain to her why it's not good to mix waste because most of it ends up in a landfill. It's hard to recycle, hard to compost. So suddenly, the next time Feroz is cooking her favorite dish, she's conscious about doing something wrong. She might not segregate waste, but when she dumps it in one bin, she knows, she remembers the conversation with Chandra and Mari. Now we keep up awareness efforts, and we keep telling her about how segregation is so important. And one day she'll go out and buy a second bin. And when she's cooking her favorite prawn curry, she'll put the prawn shells and the vegetable peels in the organic waste bin or biodegradable waste bin. And she'll put her plastics and paper in the non-biodegradable waste bin. So that's conscious. So from unconsciously wrong behavior, suddenly she's doing something consciously right. It takes a lot of effort. Now, behavioral psychologists say if you do this regularly for about 4 to 6 months, it becomes habitual. It becomes something unconscious, something you don't think about. Like washing your hands after going to the bathroom or brushing your teeth before you go to bed. And this is exactly what we'd like to do with our social enterprise, non-profit social enterprise, WasteLess, is change behavior on a massive scale, because we really would like to change the world with one piece of garbage at a time. And it's interesting because when you throw something away, that concept just doesn't exist because there's no away. We live on a round, finite planet. There's no away. And so when you look at this linear system, we extract raw materials, resources, we produce products like a phone, ship it to customers like myself, I buy it, I drop it, it gets damaged, broken, and it goes to a dump. Maybe some portion of it will be recycled. So we have a linear system of resource use that brings resources, natural resources, out of the earth and then dumps them back as pollutants in our landfill. So we were thinking where to intervene. And there's lots of great work happening in waste management in India. But we decided to intervene at consumers because we find that they have a huge effect on the upstream waste produced, that industrial waste produced, by consuming more responsibly. And when we look at consumers, we found that children are the most interested. Not a lot of people like to listen to people talking trash like me. But children were interested and open because they have a vested interest. They're inheriting the mess we're creating today. So we decided to intervene with children. These are a few pictures of pledges, the campaign we did. And so we created Garbology 101 for my hometown, Oroville, and it has about 15 schools. And it's an education toolkit with 101 innovative activities which are designed to create long-term and lasting behavioral change in the hope that raising awareness about waste and its specific impacts will change the way children deal with waste. So here's a little overview. We did this in a participatory approach with teachers and students, and the teachers said we don't want a book, and the students said we don't want a book. Now that was difficult. So we created a teacher's guide with multi-levels, and it's targeting class 1 to 6. And we're looking at waste through different themes, different perspectives. So we're looking at it from a systems change perspective, so looking at the players in the system, how they work, how you get products, and how waste is disposed. We're looking at resource conservation with links, resources, natural resources, with products you use every day, like this phone. We did whole school activities, which helped to spread awareness in the whole school. We have a theme on avoidance and reduction, which is basically the pinnacle of the waste hierarchy, the most favorable thing to do. We have a theme on waste, which teaches you how to dispose and segregate waste. And we also wanted to empower students to feel like they can do something. And so we gave them a theme called conscious consumerism, which tries to help them understand how they can buy better. And the students didn't want a book, so we gave them student cards. They're postcard-sized cards with information about each of the 101 activities under different themes. You can see them there. And they can pick and choose what they would like to do in the following classes. We also have waste bin stickers. Now, Oroville has a high level of segregation. So most of us segregate waste in about 4 or 5 categories you see above here. And now we're trying to develop that into an 11-bin system. So we're segregating broken glass from glass, because if you have broken glass, it's hard to handle, and it's lower value. We're segregating medical waste from our paper, because that has pathogens. And this whole model is aimed at empowering teachers to teach. So we have introduction chapters and theme posters that try to help teachers understand the link of these different themes to waste. We also have fun learning. So here, it's difficult to read, but here we have a snakes and ladders themed game, and you throw a die and move forward. So for example, if you land on number 2, I only use rechargeable batteries, you go forward 3 spaces. But if you're unlucky and you land on number 15, I like to break my stuff so that my parents buy me new stuff, you go back to the start. So here's a fun way of understanding items of conscious consumerism for kids. We also have handouts. So these are handouts that younger children, so first standard students, can color in and understand. Now with older students, we cut them out, and you can remove items. You could remove the 2 bins where Preeti is throwing her pen into and say what will happen. You can remove the waste collection worker who's taking the pens away, and basically everything will end up at the dump. So we're trying to teach kids through this way. I don't like watching cricket, but I like watching my dad watch cricket because T20, the World Cup's on now, and he hates advertisements. And for a 3-minute over, I think there's about a minute and a half of advertisements. And he jumps up every time in between when the ads come up to turn the volume off. And so we're bombarded with advertisements every day. And we wanted to teach kids about how to understand these advertisements. And as we become more environmentally conscious, the ads cater to those. So take this ad, the world's most eco-friendly car. Its slogan is "Drive for a Better Environment." This is an ad we've made. And its line says, with a new nano-hyper-injection fuel regulator, you get higher performance with lower emissions. Now, we want to teach kids how to understand greenwashing, so we break down the ad. The California redwoods in the background are kind of suggestive, right? Eco-friendly doesn't really say much. Why is it eco-friendly? Drive for a better environment is an obvious lie. And nano-hyper-injection fuel regulator is really only language or jargon, information that only scientists can understand. So what can you do? I would urge you to think and then buy. Think about how products are made, what happens upstream, and whether you need it or want it. I'd urge you to waste less. Try and whatever you do to create less waste, because this is very important. If you're going shopping, carry a reusable bag. Refill a bottle to drink water. I would urge you to never litter. Set an example for the rest of us in the world by never throwing waste on the street. Put it in a bin. Carry a plastic bag when you go traveling to put your waste into. Segregate your own waste. Now this is very easy to do. 2 bins, wet waste, dry waste. And it makes all the difference because that banana peel mixed with your plastic bag, the banana peel will start to decompose. So it decreases the value of your plastic bag. And it decreases the value of making compost because you have to remove the plastic bag. So segregating into simply 2 categories is very easy. And request better waste management services. We as citizens in India have to request better waste management services. And so what can we all do? Yes, I mentioned it. Segregate waste into at least 2 categories. Make sure that waste is transported and handled separately and processed separately. This is very important because if you segregate and the municipality takes it and dumps it in one bin, it doesn't make much sense. Respect waste pickers. Now, they're our heroes in India, and without them, we'd be living under a big mountain of garbage. And last, I'd urge you to talk trash. Help spread awareness about waste and the importance of its better management. I strongly believe that education should empower the future generation to do much better than we're doing today. And that's why we at WasteLess, it's our dream that every student gets Garbology in school. And we at WasteLess would also like to start doing waste audits for organizations and companies to help them avoid and reduce upstream, which has a massive impact. And of course, we'd like to continue spreading awareness about waste. Now, my last message for you today is asking you to think in cycles and act in cycles. Because physiologically, nature is nothing but recycled goods. So if the food we eat gets decomposed by earthworms, now those nutrients create the most beautiful hibiscus flower. So the hibiscus flower is 100% recycled. Arnold Schwarzenegger's bicep, every cell in that bicep is actually 100% recycled. Deepika Padukone's beautiful face, her symmetrical face, the cells that make that face are 100% recycled. Now, every brain cell in Einstein's brain is 100% recycled. And with that, I would like to say thank you, and please waste less.